Let's talk about the advisory board training. So this training is the only training in the industry. Can't find it anywhere else. People keep telling us, why don't you do it in a virtual way? But we can't really do it in a virtual way. Who's going to listen to 2 days of training? And where is the impact of all of you talking to each other and learning from each other? So when you look at some of the things that we would like to review with you during the training, first of all, we want you to learn a framework for designing and running a board. We want to start with the strategic thinking. What is an advisory board? What are the objectives? How do you measure success? Why do you even set an advisory board? Why now? Then go through the entire design phase of how do you design an advisory board? Who are the members? What type of experience you're trying to create for the members? How are you going to use the output? So you need to think in advance what type of output you're looking to get and how you're going to use the output. Right? And how are you going to keep it alive? How are you going to sustain the engagement of the members and your own executives in order to create a real transformational change with advisory boards? We want to make sure that you will be able to apply all these tools and all these best practices and workflows. So we'll do a lot of interactive exercises throughout the 2 days that will allow you to actually become hands-on with all of the principles that we're going to learn during the next 2 days. And at the end of the 2 days, you'll have a toolkit of best practices that you will need to go back and actually customize to your own environment. So, day one, and we're at the beginning of day one, we're going to talk about what is an advisory board, how is it different from other engagement programs, from voice of the customer, from briefing centers, from surveys, from user groups. We'll talk about the differences between what is an advisory board and what are the other programs. We'll talk about setting the right objectives. And how do you measure ROI? So we'll share with you specific scorecards and metrics. We have a database of 50 or 60 different metrics that you can use to apply to your advisory board. You need to customize it to your environment, but this database exists. So we'll share with you a lot of the metrics that we use to measure the success of the advisory board. Then in the afternoon, we'll start talking about how do you design the advisory board. Many times companies just set up an advisory board because they feel this is a good thing to do, but they don't really put any work into design. Like any other project, you need to design it first. So we'll talk about the design of the advisory board, what type of infrastructure you're looking to create, what type of project planning needs to happen, how you're going to report on deliverables, what type of structure internally you need to create. So we have an internal structure that we recommend that has multiple stakeholders. What type of charter you're going to actually build for the advisory board. We'll spend a lot of time on the design part of it. Okay? Then we'll end the day talking about the recruitment phase. Our methodology guarantees about 95% success rate in recruitment. 95%. And we stand behind it. However, there's a lot of work involved. So we'll talk to you about how do we do recruitment, what do we see out there with companies that actually are successful in recruiting members. And not just the low-hanging fruit, aspirational recruitment, the people that need to be on your board, not just the people that you know. A lot of it has to do with what is your power to convene, what's in it for them. You can actually have a very successful board even if you have somewhat tenuous relationships with these customers, if the premise of the board is strong enough. And we'll talk about the strategic direction of the board, even if it's a product board. And then we'll do a wrap-up at the end of the day. Tomorrow we'll talk about the agenda creation, a key part of any advisory board. And we believe that agenda creation needs to happen with the members, along with the members, and not created in a vacuum, where you're sitting in a nice facility like that and kind of like think about the agenda. So we'll talk about a process that has 7 steps, takes about 4 months to complete, to create one single agenda for one single meeting. However, if you do that, so a lot of the things we share with you might seem like, whoa, who's going to do all that work? So our plan is to share with you the best practice and you can decide how much you want to implement. But it takes about 4 months to create an agenda for a meeting. Okay? We'll talk about creating the agenda. We'll talk about meeting facilitation. What are the things that we see that work, what doesn't work, how to control all the characters that you spoke about, how to actually get to the objectives of each and every session. How do you get to the objective of the entire meeting? What do you do with the meeting report? So a best practice is within 24 hours, you have a report that is sent to your sales team and your relationship managers. 24 hours after the meeting is done. Boom, that's done. 7 days later, you will have the full meeting report, and we'll share with you examples of what a full meeting report looks like. It's extensive, but within 7 days, everybody has it. You need to move very fast. You need to be agile in order to create a lot of momentum and a lot of passion and engagement in the advisory board. We'll talk about action tracking. How do you manage the action items? How do you track them? How do you actually convert it into something that is real and meaningful to your organization? And then in the afternoon, we'll talk about managing the advisory board for optimal performance. Continuous engagement of the members, continuous engagement of your executives, and continuing to innovate with the advisory board. An advisory board cannot stay the same. Every year is different. So we'll talk about the stages or the life cycle of an advisory board. Some images from previous meetings. I think you'll all find this meeting very, very relevant and valuable. So we held it in different places around the country. This time we're in Silicon Valley. And some of the testimonials just wanted to share with you from your peers that actually run advisory boards. So Christy from HP, who's been running the advisory board programs at HP for a long time, her testimonial at the end of the meeting was, wish I had taken this course 10 years ago. Like many of you, there are a lot of people out there that try to learn by trial and error. So here you will get the benefit of learning from us in terms of methodologies and a system and a process and a workflow, and from everyone else. Adobe, we've been working with Allison for a long, long time. We actually have an advisory board conference in Utah. Yeah, we have a summit coming up in October. There will be about 50 people, 50 companies, and different presentations on advisory boards. You're all welcome to attend. It's not a training program. It's not structured like what we do here, but you'll hear different practitioners talk about what they do with their advisory boards. And we do it with Adobe and Allison, a long-term friend.